and Liz Genge,
Perfect.
from Cathedral Square and Sash. And I think there are a lot of new faces from the last time you were in, at least Molly. So if you wanna start with
Sure.
the introductions.
Emily Krasnow, South Burlington, Chittenden 9.
Hey, good morning. I'm Elizabeth Burrows and I represent Windsor 1, which is Heartland, West Windsor and Windsor.
Good morning, I'm Mary Howard. I represent Rutland City District 6.
Good morning, Gal Pezzo. I represent Chittenden 20, Colchester.
I'm Debbie Dolgan. I represent St. Johnsbury, Kirby, and Concord.
Hi, Tom Charlton, Athens, Chester, Grafton, and Wyndham.
Joe Parsons, I represent the towns of Newbury, Thompson, and Groton.
Leonora Dodge, nice to see you, and I represent Essex Town and part of the city of Essex Junction.
Ashley Bartley, Franklin 1. Now the floor is yours. Okay. Yay, okay, just get this on so it's coming all the way through. From the beginning. Good morning. Thank you for having me. Good morning, Chair Molly. For the record, my name is Molly Dugan, and I'm Director of Policy and Strategic Initiatives at Cathedral Square. And my colleague Liz and I are here to provide some information about Cathedral Square and the affordable housing and services that we produce and manage in primarily the northwest side of the state. And also to talk about the services and support program that Cathedral Square pioneered about 12 years ago called SASH. So we're gonna hit both. I'm gonna start off with kind of the overview of what Cathedral Square does and fill you in on some of the housing production that we've done recently and that's in the pipeline. I know, obviously we're in a housing crisis, and that's important for you all to know. What the funds that you have been investing in through the Vermont Housing Conservation Board, how it's going and what's happening recently. So pretty quickly, Cathedral Square was founded in 1977, actually by the Cathedral Square, the St. Paul's Cathedral Church in Burlington, in downtown Burlington. That was they donated land to us, build a flagship property, which is the high-rise downtown that overlooks the lake. And at the time, the church felt that the highest need they were seeing was for affordable housing for older adults. We have continued on that mission ever since, and we now have, with the new properties that will be coming online in the next few years, 29 different affordable housing properties throughout as I said, throughout the Northwest Vermont. And this is, I know, a very kind of busy slide, but it gives you a sense of all the different communities that we build. And I'm going to send around a little show and tell of that report. But we are in urban areas in Chittenden County, rural areas in Chittenden County, Franklin County, Grand Isle. And we focus primarily on housing for older adults and those with disabilities, but we also have some special purpose communities as well. For instance, in South Burlington, we have South Burlington Community Housing, which is primarily for people with physical disabilities. We also have a housing in downtown Burlington in partnership with the Howard Center that is for people that are struggling with mental health challenges. And we've been in that partnership for decades now. So that gives you a sense. I wanted to, as I said, talk to you about some of the newer properties and those in the pipeline. And I want to underscore that the communities I'm about to share with you and show you would not have happened without Vermont Housing Conservation Board funding. And these are all going to be permanently affordable and permanent assets to the communities that they're in. So Bayview Crossing is a property that we opened in 2022 in South Hero, a total of 20 homes. It is it is in the area that South Hero is making its kind of village center, town center. So it's near Cider, which is a social service agency that's co-housed there. There's a bagel shop there. There's some commercial that's starting. And so we were really an anchor for that new kind of community center for South Hero. And you can see there's a nice view of the lake, which is nice. Kelly's Field 2 will be opening up in February for residents. This is a doubling of the size of the housing we have there. So this is an expansion. We have a original Kelly's Field property in it's right in downtown Heinsberg. And so with these 24 new homes, we're doubling the capacity of affordable housing in that wonderful town. So we're very excited about that. And as I said, people are moving in February. So right around the corner.
These are senior,
Yeah, these are,
they're apartment units.
these are full apartment units. We also, Cathedral Square also runs 2 licensed assisted living communities as well. One in that flagship property, a couple of floors of that flagship property in downtown Burlington is for assisted living, 30 apartments for assisted living. And then we have a memory care community in Williston, which is 14 apartments for people with dementia. And both of those are affordable long-term care. And I mean, like, we take Medicaid, that's what we take.
Gail, did you have a question?
Yeah, how did you know that?
You kind of wiggled your hand.
Oh, how much would an apartment in this particular complex be?
So these were funded, and I know you guys heard a lot from like Kathy Byer last week about how these kind of properties are funded. So it's like a whole different kind of stack of funding. So these were funded with low-income housing tax credits like most are, as well as VHCB funding and a slew of others. I think we had 6 or 8 different funding sources. So the low-income housing tax credit rents that you charge are below market value. I don't know exactly what the rents are here, but I know they're a couple $100 under what market value would be. And there are also some units here that have project-based Section 8. So for those units, no one is paying more than 30% of their income for their rent. And just to underscore that, like, we have a resident that makes 50, like, who pays $25 a month, because that's 30% of their income. So that, it really is, based on whatever your income is.
Are these
So-
1 and 2 bedrooms?
These are 1 and 2, yeah,
Okay.
so just a few 2-bedroom.
Mhm.
And a couple of them are fully handicapped accessible, and then all of them are adaptable, meaning they're set up so that you can quickly make them fully accessible as needed, but 2 are fully handicapped accessible.
Go ahead, Lenore.
Just to like make it, somebody that earns, 20 to 30,000 a year might pay $1,000 a month for a 2-bedroom.
Yeah.
As an example,
Is one other question, if I might,
in Chittenden County, which is,
Okay.
Easy, yeah.
is
just to give you an example of how affordable we mean by affordable, yeah.
in the capital stack, is any of the money Cathedral Square money?
Well, we take out, during the construction of this, we have to take out financing loans for that construction period that we get from Vermont Housing Finance Agency, and then we have to pay that back. So yes, so there is short-term financing that we have to get.
It's yours.
Yes.
The HFA,
Yep,
right, yeah.
yep.
Please.
Thank you. I'm curious as to why you only have 2 accessible units when it's senior housing.
So we have 2 full accessible and the rest are adaptable, and
I can make a comment.
yeah, I'm not
This is
sure.
like
how to
my-
answer.
Previous to Cathedral Square, I worked in housing for 25 years at Down Street. It's all adaptable, meaning a lot of times people come and what is accessible might be not gonna meet the needs of this resident. So we really do work to make sure the apartment that's available could work for what those, needs are for that particular person. And if it is someone who rides a wheelchair, we can do that, that sort of thing. So it's all adaptable. Everything is built so we can make sure that the best that we can is make it. Is that what you mean?
And I
It
guess
is. Do you have any data on the percent of units that have to be upgraded to accept for accessibility purposes?
We could track that, not, I don't.
Yeah, we can. Yeah,
Like,
we'll
yeah.
note that down.
Yeah.
I would say that also, we asked, we have 1,300 people on our wait list for these 29 properties. And so in that application process, we're also asking them if they need fully accessible or adaptable. So I think that we also don't see as many people that want fully accessible at the time that they're moving in. But then over time, because we have people that live with us for 30 years, they move in at 55 or 62 and they're with us. So it's also partly consumer demand. Some people do not want a fully accessible unit when they move in.
And I'm not asking why aren't all of your units
Yeah, no, I
accessible? I
totally
just
get it.
was wondering why only two
Yeah,
out of,
yeah.
since you're dealing with people who
Right,
will,
yeah.
you
I'm
know,
sure
either
there's-
need or will need.
Yeah.
And I just wondered what the rationale was for having, and I also wondered whether having that on your application impacts acceptance. Application acceptance.
And if you know someone has special needs.
Right.
And they need an accessible unit, does that reduce their chance of acceptance?
Oh,
No.
no.
It's just like a first come, first serve. You're on a wait
Yeah,
list.
you're on the list and then we just go down the
And
list.
if you on the list and you're on a wheelchair, then you make the changes to the unit that you have to make.
Yeah, we would talk
Yes.
to them about what their needs are, and if it's an adaptable unit, we'd make what change we had to make to get them in.
So the difference, could you clarify the difference? I mean, one is question, is the word universal design? In other words, the doors are wide enough for a wheelchair. Are there already installed grab bars and stuff like that?
So
Yeah.
in all of our apartments, the
In all of them,
bathrooms have the handrails, we have step-in showers. We used to do some units that had bathtubs and then like nobody wanted those anymore, so we stopped doing that. We might have a couple where somebody wants to use a bath, but it's unusual. But yeah, the door frames are a certain way, but like in the fully handicapped units, like you don't have any cabinets underneath, like in a kitchen. Whereas in the ones that are adaptable, you'll have those cabinets, but they're really easy to pull out. And make like a kind of a bar that sticks out in the kitchen to make it easier. So that's kind of the difference. But all of them are, you're gonna be able to get around the bathroom and get into the apartment and there's, radius to move a wheelchair.
Which we had to try for us now.
I know,
Yeah,
I
it's
know.
Can I,
Go ahead.
like, just to illustrate, when my mom moved into a building, so full disclosure, my mom lives in a Cathedral Square building. It took her 5 years on a wait list to get in.
Right.
And when she was about to move in, they asked, we took out the table because the previous person had been in there and needed more accessibility. It was like, do you want us to add back in tables that stick out a little further, or do you need it for mobility to be out of your way? Do you want, the unit that has the roll-in shower, or do you want a step up, or do you want a tub? Like, there were all kinds of options, but it's kind of like the apartments, it takes a long time for the apartments to become available. And so they will just be like, here's what we have.
Yes.
And how do we make it adaptable? How do we adapt it to what your needs are? And so, she got to come in and look at the space and get a feel for it and be like, yeah, actually, I do want more counter space. So yeah, add in the table and, stuff like that.
We try, we're trying to be very flexible with the
Ashley?
Just because Rep Dodge had mentioned 5-year wait, what is your average waiting list?
It's anywhere from 1 to 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah, and it really depends on the property.
Yeah, we were like trying to get into a specific building
Okay.
because it was close to my home.
Yeah, we often suggest that people get on like as many lists as they're comfortable with, because depending on the property.
And so like every property is a different list.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Okay, I'm gonna, so this is one of our properties that's in development right now. This is in St. Albans, right downtown in the middle again of kind of their growth area. We're going to be adding 33 permanently affordable homes there. And this is going to be opening up this summer. So it's coming online this summer, which is very exciting. And then this is in the pipeline. So this one we're expecting to open up in just a few years. And this is in Highgate Village, quite a rural area. We're going to be doing 30 homes there. And this is Highgate is developing a village area. And so this is part of a larger project they're doing. They're going to have they're going to have this next to it. They're going to have a library and a community center. So that again, this kind of housing acts as part of that anchor for a lot of activity and a lot of ease for our older adults and those with disabilities to get to these places they want to be. Okay, I'm gonna keep, and then I wanted to highlight this property in Whitcomb Woods. This is one that we already own and have owned and managed for quite some time. It needed a reinvestment of funds due to its age. It's been very well maintained by us, but you get to a point where it's major renovations are needed, like roofing and things like that. And so we have put together a stack of funding to redo this and basically to preserve this affordable funding, this affordable housing into the future and this is a large property, 65 homes in the village of Essex. All right. So I'm going to turn it over to Liz, but I just wanted to underscore before I turn it over to Liz, talk about our amazing services model that, again, all of these, all the housing that I've shown you on the pamphlet, as well as what's underdeveloped, relies on VHCB funding. I know you all heard, I think it was last week from Gus at VHCB, that there's a lot more in the pipeline of projects that need funding from VHCB, like 50 million worth for the 13 million, around 13 million that they have left from what was provided to them last year. So I'll just say anything that you all can consider for the suggesting for the budget adjustment for VHCB would help the developers like Cathedral Square will keep working on like that pipeline project in Highgate and the next one, knowing that there is more funding for VHCB coming. All right, so I'm going to turn it over to Liz now.
Thanks,
I
everyone.
should just tell you, for housekeeping purposes, we have, let's see, it's about 20 after now. We have a joint hearing with the Senate, our analog committee in the Senate at 9:45. So we'll probably need to set up for it like 2 minutes before that, just to give you a
That's
sense of
perfect.
time.
Yeah.
So you've got
Yes,
about
that's-
20 minutes.
20
Oh,
minutes.
that's easy. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry to be.
No, that's helpful. So you'll see the whole state. So Cathedral Square offers SASH, the SASH program, in all of our apartment buildings, all of our homes. And while I work for Cathedral Square, my role is statewide administrator of SASH. So SASH is really woven into the affordable housing network for housing for older adults and has been so for over a decade. So I wanted to share that with those like stars, that's where we have SASH located even more. And you also see part of the model is that there are 6 regions that we consider in Vermont, and there's a nonprofit housing organization that's the regional leader of SASH, and then they will work with their own housing hosts, their own other nonprofits. We have 22 housing organizations that are signed up that offer SASH. We're in 140 apartment communities around the state that are owned and managed by affordable nonprofits, and we have 5,000 residents that are participating. Not only people that are living in the apartment buildings, that anyone can sign up if they're is offering SASH, but the surrounding communities. If there's a person that's on Medicare and they're just down the street, then they can join if there's room on that panel. So people.
Elizabeth, yeah.
Can I just ask a quick question about this? Do the stars on here represent all of the organizations that are listed to the right? Or what do the stars represent?
They represent the housing sites.
The housing sites?
Yes.
Only, okay.
Yeah, where SASH is emanating out of, 140.
Okay,
So in every county, and you know, you can see where there's more clusters and.
Yeah.
So like obviously Rural Edge has lots of housing communities, so
Yeah.
those stars are the different Rural Edge communities.
Yep, yep.
They operate SASH.
Thanks, good question.
Do you have a figure of how many houses are projected in the next 1 to 5 years?
Housing communities to bring online with SASH.
Yes.
Well, that's an interesting question because SASH is funded separately. So I was going to get into how we can offer SASH as we're building more apartment buildings that are so necessary. We want to also keep up with providing services to those.
Currently, our funding is capped and we're funded through healthcare dollars primarily for SASH.
Uh-huh.
And so every time more housing comes online for older adults, we can't necessarily put SASH on that because it needs the funding. So sometimes housing organizations are piecing together different ways to raise the money to do the SASH. But we are capped on the funding source currently.
Yeah, so thank you. So this is a little bit, it's about the structure. I mentioned that. So the housing organizations will hire there's the SASH coordinator. We also consider a community health worker. That's it. Where all our SASH coordinators are considered that. And we have a wellness nurse. So the coordinator is full-time that the housing organization hires. And then the wellness nurse is 10 hours a week, maybe 15 hours a week. So they're doing assessments. They're located at the communities. Their offices are at the housing communities. And more rural areas, they might have one hub and then they're, out there at different sites, different days. So the core team there, they'll be doing health assessments. If people are interested, it is free to participants. People don't need to do it. I also wanted to call out that we are doing right now, we've got mental health clinicians that are employed by the mental health agencies that are part of some of the SASH teams. That's working really well. That's a whole different funding stream. But I also wanted to just share that SASH is a Cathedral Square program. The affordable housing organizations are operating it, but it's a real partnership. So when I say SASH, we have in every region a collaborative memorandum of understanding that we update every 2 or 3 years with the hospitals, the primary care, the VNAs of Vermont. Now we're adding BIATA, different partners. So we all have the same specific mission. What is SASH? This is what it means. This is the paperwork. This is the training, so we have a real core understanding and mission, which I think really serves us well for consistency.
And those are all the partners. That's why I'm just, so hopefully as you kind of look on this list, you'll recognize those partner agencies that are in your districts.
Rep. Howard, you have a question?
Thank you. Yes. Rutland Housing Authority, is there still a wellness nurse or a clinician at Hickory Street location in Rutland?
Oh, I wish I knew that specific, but we've had turnover. And again, this is Rutland Housing Authority, like you said, with the wellness nurse. So they have 2 people that they're looking to hire. So they have had a vacancy there.
Okay, because I have spoken with a number of my constituents that live there, and they were just so delighted. And many of them used the nurse and were just so happy. And then I heard that there wasn't anyone there.
Yeah, no, it's been some staff turnover. Yeah.
Okay.
And we can let you know. We can.
Yeah.
That would be
Yes.
great. I would really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Actually, I think my
You had a
daughter
question?
applied, but then she ended up moving.
Oh, okay.
But anyway, yeah, thank you.
can you explain, is this a flow chart?
It's not a flow chart, actually.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's a good
Okay.
question. So the participant is in the driver's seat. That's why I put that picture there. The participant's in the middle at the housing organization. They're part of, we call our participants a panel. So we get funded through healthcare dollars, and to go into what that means. And so we're doing through the all payer model. We're saying we're going to get this much money and we're going to serve a panel of participants that live in affordable housing. And then the participants in the middle, and they can choose what they want to do, how they want to participate.
What do you mean by a panel of participants?
Yeah, so for example, like in Rutland, that it's about 70 to 100 people would be a panel, a grouping, you know. In the more like the rural edge area, it's 70, right? Because you have people driving to the sites. We have a big building in Burlington, with 100 people signed up. And so that full-time coordinator and that part-time wellness nurse serve that population.
So it's really a way, it was,
Population of 100 people?
yeah, so it's a way, it's a mechanism to determine how much staff you have for this grouping. So we have, half-time wellness, part-time wellness nurse, full-time SASH coordinator, for a panel of 70 to 100 people. And that's our funding.
That's why we need all these partners.
Panel is a term for a group of your
It's just a
clients.
group of our clients,
You
yes.
have a question?
Yes, more of a comment, but for new members and others, and I'm sure our returning committee members have heard me say it, but to me, this is just such a good example of, the need for investment in housing. And in my community, in South Burlington, it has been just such an incredible place. It is right in our new library. You go there, and I invite anyone to come visit. I've spent time with residents there, and they just light up. They talk about how this program has changed their lives, saved their lives with the healthcare options. I mean, this is just such an example of, we can do a lot of red tape cutting, but when you invest in programs like this, it really shows. And I'm just so grateful for the work that you all do at Cathedral Square. So thank you.
Thank you.
I have a very basic question, I guess, revealing my ignorance. If I live, let's say I live in rural Vermont somewhere, and I'm old and disabled and on Medicaid, but I'm not in any of the units, I just live at home. Is SASH available to me?
At that Medicaid, not.
Not Medicare.
Correct.
Oh, yeah.
Medicaid, no.
Right, we don't serve everybody. We could serve a lot more people.
There was a pilot, right, for
So there is a SASH for All pilot, which is, we're gonna get to that. We can
Okay,
show
all right,
you
go
that.
ahead then.
Wait, did you
But yeah.
say Medicaid no and Medicare yes?
Yeah,
Correct.
yeah, so for traditional SASH is for older adults and those with disabilities,
Medicare.
and that's what Medicare basically
Yeah.
covers.
Yeah.
All right.
About 30% of our participants in SASH are both covered by Medicare and Medicaid. So
But if I am Medicare and I'm not in I'm not in a Cathedral Square or similar unit, I could be covered.
yes,
Go ahead, please. I'm
Based
sorry.
on, room on the panel.
Yeah, okay.
So just we talked a little bit about that. When we first started, we've had a really robust review of what SASH is. Let me get my head straight. We skipped a slide. That's not part. That's and so in the first, early on in the program, there was a 5-year study that the federal government invested in through RTI. They looked at claims data. They compared who was participating in SASH and who isn't, and determined and found that there was some savings in the growth of healthcare dollars. So saving Medicare dollars. And also because people were settled, they had accessible healthcare right where they lived. They were not going to nursing homes as quickly. They were able to stay maybe, and not take that up. So that reduced Medicaid savings.
Medicare. Oh, yeah, Medicaid as well, yeah. Yeah, so basically the reductions in the growth of Medicare, the federal evaluators attributed it to less ER visits, less inpatient hospitalizations. And as Liz said, postponing moving to very expensive, higher levels of care like nursing homes and assisted living.
So what you'll see, and you can change,
Yeah.
but what you'll see is that there's a big shift, our main shift from emergency services to preventive services.
Exactly. Yeah.
So here's just a snapshot of our profile of who we serve, about 5,000 participants.
And we've served 12,000 since we've started.
Very good. And we also track when we're doing our assessments with residents. We can see we're doing blood pressure. We're asking them proactively about their diagnoses. The top three, this is a statewide level, is hypertension, arthritis, chronic pain. That's pretty consistent year over year. And then the staff around the state have their own report so they can see, well, maybe in their area, high cholesterol, for example, was one, and we were able to do some specific programming around the cholesterol. But I wanted to also share that 85% of our participants have 3 or more chronic conditions. Again, this is all in affordable housing. That's high. That's relatively high. Like nationally, it's more like 55% of people 65 and over have 3 or more chronic conditions, and 8 is the median number of chronic conditions that people have. So next. Going back to
Why?
Well, there's a couple things.
Why?
Right.
Yeah.
Is it the population? Is it that we're asking these questions on a regular basis and we're tracking it on a regular basis? And we're encouraging people to talk about it? I don't know.
We're also, I mean, I would also just add that, we're serving a lot of very low income people that may likely come from a background of not having access to regular healthcare, quality food, you name it. So that's why, targeting services within affordable housing makes so much sense, because you're able to really wrap around services and supports to those who need it the most. And that's what we're doing.
So really quick,
Saudi, yes.
thank you. Really easy question, hopefully. Do you think that if it were not based on the funding, were not based on healthcare dollars, would you be tracking this information? Or do you think that because it's a healthcare model based off that's how you're, my question, do you think that people also have, similar approximately 3 or more chronic health conditions, but are not being documented because the funding is not coming through a healthcare stream? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Answering the question.
So you're wondering about in other proproperties that don't have SASH, so we're not collecting it, do they likely have?
Because he said, why do you think that is? And so I'm wondering.
I would say yes.
If it's, okay, there's a correlation. Thank you.
Yes.
We also provide, we do group programming at the sites, evidence-based programming. We work really closely with My Healthy Vermont to do some of those, chronic disease self-management, hypertension programs. But we're also doing, and our staff are trained in like Tai Chi, in different bone builders. There's a group they're called Matter of Balance. So it's not only our staff that might be trained to do it, but if an area agency on aging, for example, they do a lot of similar programs. They'll say, can you come to our site? And they come and we really try to collaborate what's going on out there that we can bring to our sites. And then we also have a lot of communities that are going to play pickleball and doing square dancing and doing different things, art projects, all those things. And it's not only for health, but also like combating the social isolation and loneliness. Yeah, it's really great to see the connections that people make when there's a reason to go down to the community room, facilitated by somebody. Reducing health disparities. I see you brought in a handout, Molly. One of the things that we did that starting this summer was we're bringing dental cleanings to the sites. We can also, because we were noticing, a lot of our residents weren't having their cleanings. So we could see and specifically prioritize people who were on Medicaid, who might not have a dentist and couldn't pay for a dentist. So we found this, my staff people found this great person, and he goes to the different places and he accepts Medicaid. And then it is open to any participant who wants to do that. And then I just want to show that, did you want to say something more about the?
Oh, no, sorry. No.
And then also we won an award, which was great. Those are my colleagues there for healthcare quality by reducing hypertension among older adults year over year. Our nurses are doing blood pressure clinics. We're lending out the blood pressure. We're tracking it down, doing all of the things with that specific focus. So.
And collaborating with primary care on that.
Elizabeth?
Do you work at all with the community nursing programs?
You do? Yeah, like in Windsor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Like the Upper Valley Nursing.
Yeah. Yeah. So we do. And again, sort of that, we don't need to cross over our participants, right? But we I say we, they do the meetings together, like the community health team meetings, and they can talk about specific individuals and just to make sure that people are covered in their area. Necessary.
So not duplicative, but collaborative.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, and they're
Yeah.
doing a little bit of a different style, but yeah, it's a great program. Absolutely. The Sash and mental health clinician, we received some congressionally delegated spending, Senator Sanders and Senator Welch, to expand embedding a clinician in some of our sites. We've been doing that. OneCare is funding that with us in our two Burlington properties, and we were seeing just such great results. In this 1 year that we have signed on, in addition to the Howard Center, Washington County Mental Health, Rutland Mental Health, Northeast Kingdom Human Services, that 87% of the participants that were connected who had we call it a SUC, emotional wellness clinician. You're not gonna have to remember that. But 87 of the participants were connected with that clinician within 3 days of referral. I mean, just the access of that. And the clinician, they do provide therapy if they're interested. They're doing all group programming, they're doing counseling or what have you. And it doesn't need to be billed because we're getting the funding and it's that population base. So it's really exciting. And year over year, we're seeing over 50% of the male participants are also engaging in mental health services with the emotional wellness clinician. And that's significant because nationally speaking, it's more like 17% of men. I mean, just getting rid of that stigma when you have somebody accessible, you can just knock on the door and you know who they are. And so we really are seeing great results with this. And you'll see some of the other organizations that we're working with right now through contracts.
And so
Since we
again,
just
all of
have a
this.
few minutes, do you want to make sure I just want to make sure you say what you really consider important
Yeah.
rather than being trapped by your PowerPoint.
Yes, absolutely.
Good. And I think maybe
The
just in a
last one, the
nutshell,
mental.
yeah, we are translating this model to housing with families with children. And that we're same sort of structure. This is zip through
Yeah.
these. And we notice too, like we're really doing a lot of prevention of homelessness when we're working with this newer population, the younger population in addition.
What is the pilot program you mentioned?
It's called Sash for All.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
how is it just structurally? Where is it funded and how is it different?
We originally were funded through a congressionally designated funding.
Yeah.
We are now receiving some funding through AHS. It is located in Brattleboro. So we're working with 2 Brattleboro partners and there's 2 panels. And so it's a pilot. And ideally, if you could go to the slide that has an app, 87% of the participants do qualify for Medicaid. And we were seeing, the food insecurity. I mean, nothing is a big surprise, but we are just being proactive and being in place there.
Yep. When you say 87% of what?
Of the residents that live in the communities
So
where Sash for All is located.
It's Wyndham Windsor Housing Trust and Brattleboro Housing Partnership.
So what is the size of that?
Yep.
Right
Sorry, we
now,
have that somewhere here.
right now we have 235 residents participating.
Okay.
Could be double that, 119 adults with 116 children. The median age is 43, so versus the 73 you saw earlier.
With traditional Sash.
Yes.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, so, the key thing here is the importance of the potentially affordable housing throughout the state and the fact that because we have that foundation around the state, we can layer on this kind of really robust services model that has been, evaluated and shown to reduce healthcare dollars. So while we need the investment in this, on the other end, it's saving dollars, it's saving Medicaid, it's saving Medicare. So
I would also add lastly that it also helps prevent homelessness and evictions when you have healthier neighborhoods and people working together.
Thank you.
thank you so
Thank you
much for your
so much
time.
for coming.
Yes,
Really
really
appreciate
appreciate
it.
it. Yes, thank you so much. I know you guys are busy, busy.